I just want to know if Julian can sing. Because we be singing. This whole show is a singing show. It's actually a musical.
Don't do that to me.
Welcome to the Mama's Den. Welcome to
Not the
the
church
Mama's
song.
Den. Welcome to the Mama's Den.
Well,
Yeah.
you gotta welcome to the Mama's Den.
Hey.
My name is Julian. I'm here to win.
Hey.
Pass it to Melanie.
Hey.
What you gotta say, baby?
I'm here with Julian
going?
and Cody and Ashley, my friends.
Hey.
And we gonna do it again every Mama's Monday Den.
Hey.
Listen,
All right.
I don't have anything for that except the word melanin.
Melanin.
It just felt right. You know what I
That's
mean?
a word.
It did.
Yes.
It did.
Because we're
And
here
shout
for
out
the...
to Felicia. She's not here.
Oh,
Yes.
But she will be later.
We're missing Fifi because she is booked, blessed, and busy.
We love a book that's busy.
Yes.
The
I didn't
lyrics
make that
are
up. I didn't own
Singing
it.
show then. Okay.
It's
I don't
really
own
not.
it.
What's up, y'all? It's Ashley.
I'm Fee. It's Melody.
And Cody here. And you've tapped into
The Mama's Den.
Okay, so welcome to Mama's Den Monday. Mamas and everybody in the village of raising children. We are very excited for today's episode because we have a special guest, a guest who's a podcaster. I've been listening to his podcast for almost a year now. He's a father of two and an assistant principal in Philly and the host of the Opportunity Gap podcast, Julian Saavedra. Did I say Philadelphia? Did I throw that in there?
You did.
Okay,
Philadelphia.
okay.
As you can see, I am representing
Represent.
the champions of the NFL.
That's facts.
Philadelphia Eagles. Go Birds, go Birds, go Birds.
Where's Tommy when we need him?
Go Birds. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We love when there's a man in the den.
The
You
man
know,
in
the
the
man's in
den.
the
All
den.
right.
We love it.
It's a nice
Yes.
den.
Yeah,
Oh,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Nicer than my den, and I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we try.
Yeah.
You know, it's the ladies. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
a woman knows how to make a house a home.
Yes,
Period.
they do. Yes, they do.
Wait, I guess I realized we should probably introduce ourselves to you and like our kids
Yes,
so we can
please.
really vibe.
Yes, please.
Oh
Why are
my
you
God.
looking at
let,
me?
Let me see your nails. Those
They're
are
cute,
pretty.
right?
I noticed that.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
You know,
lovely.
Cody's really stepping it up for the 992,000 now.
She is.
I like
I'm going to
it.
go first today.
I am dead.
Hi, my name is Ashley Chi. I'm using my broadcaster voice that Cody loves so much. I have 4 girls. Azara. Why did I say her name first? That's crazy.
That is crazy.
Amira, who's 16. Azara, 8. Asia is 6. And Natalia is 3. Whew.
You
Isn't
got
that
it.
crazy?
That's
crazy.
You got
That's
it.
crazy.
Melly Belly?
Hi, it's me, Melanie. That's me. I'm using my tired voice this morning because that's exactly how I feel.
That's fair.
I have 2 children, Cameron, who's 9, and Kaya, who is 3.
Love that. And I'm Cody, and I've got 3 children. Twins that are 6, Aristotle and Langston, and 8-year-old Brooks.
Who's the light of her life and joy. And the
When I listened
seasoning
to
on
that
her
episode,
food.
I
He
was
is.
cracking up.
They are all the lights of my life, but and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk about parenting children, as we do every week, but especially with Julian. But I got twins and I got a singleton, as they say. Sometimes I got to give him a little extra.
Yeah, sure do. That's fine. Until they come on an episode and write a book about you.
They
how you
will.
was-
They
okay.
will.
They will. They can sit right on this couch.
They
Yes, they
right?
can. But Julian, you
right
have to be here because you're going to help me. Help me
That
out.
part.
Maybe.
This is why you're
I
here.
will pretend to help. I'll try my best. Can I also shout out my babies? too?
Yes.
I have to. So I am the husband of Elizabeth,
I know that's
the
right.
son of Michelle and my mother-in-law Regina, my sisters, shout out to Rain and Connie, and my beautiful children, Abram, 10 years old, amazing, and Amalia, 9 years old. She's going on 25, but she is the boss of our family.
What is it about the younger sister sibling? I have one of those. Her name's I failed to
You
mention
are
my
one of
children's names.
those.
I am one of those. That is the truth. I am one of those, which is why I know. But now I have one, and it's just
Different.
It's the reflection that I wasn't prepared for. Every guest that comes on here that has like the youngest, they're like, and my daughter, the youngest, she's the boss. My daughter Kaya runs the house.
Yeah.
Wait, is that me?
Yeah.
I'm my mom's youngest.
Yeah. Yeah. But I'm the boss and I'm not my
Anyone's
mom's
youngest,
youngest.
yeah.
I'm
But
her
are you the
youngest
youngest
daughter.
girl?
I'm
There
her
it is.
youngest daughter.
Yeah.
That youngest girl gonna
That's
come to run the
funny.
house.
Somebody
That's
has to do a
crazy.
study on that. Like, what is
You.
it be? Maybe.
You.
Hey,
It's
Yes.
do you all hear that?
Ding.
Somebody want to give me a scholarship for that?
Ding.
Okay.
So, Julian, you're the host of the Opportunity Gap podcast, and I actually listened to an episode the other day about cultural responsive teaching, which was really dope because I homeschool my kids, and I was it was a really good episode. It had like a lot of really good information.
Thank you.
And for those who aren't familiar with your show, can you share what your show is about?
Sure. So in my day job, I am an assistant principal at a high school in Philadelphia. We service kids from all over the city, but primarily from the North Philly region. And as I was working in that job, I was also able to do a fellowship with understood.org. And the fellowship was all about general education teachers learning how to become better supporting special education teachers. So then they asked me, hey, you interested in doing a podcast? And I said, well, I don't really know much about that, but why not? And so the focus of the podcast is all about bridging the gap for opportunities for our students, especially Black and brown kids. What I know in 20 years in the game is that so many of our students are not getting what they need, right?
Yeah.
Especially our boys, our Black boys are not getting the services they need, the educational environment that they need, and frankly, the respect that they deserve. And so the podcast is all about bringing some of those issues to light. And we bring on people that have expertise and really just to support information. You know, a lot of our families just don't have the information that they need. And a lot of times they walk into situations where they're not armed with the proper terminology. They haven't had any experience with the information that they have to give. And so we try to bring on people who just can give you information that you need.
Yeah.
And so that's where it was born, and now we're in season 4 and we're rocking and rolling.
So I have a question before
Sure.
we even get further into it. So you mentioned special education.
Sure.
And I know the longer title of the show is like the Opportunity Gap podcast, kids with parenting kids with ADHD and learning differences. Very long, but I love it. So will you walk us through like what is special education? What are learning differences? Like what are the things that we should be thinking about in the context of the show?
Sure. So there's a lot of information around what special education is. Essentially, a learning disability is any sort of challenge that a child may have in the process of picking up information. And we know that all of us learn and think differently. So on our show, we like to frame it as a learning and thinking difference.
Yeah.
By law, there's a federal law called IDEA. And that federal law signifies that there are different disabilities that students can be qualified for based on how they learn. And those disabilities are then allowing students to get services in school where they can get provided extra help or accommodations, modifications, or a whole host of different things. And so with special education specifically, when you get those services, it doesn't mean that you're not in the general education population. It might mean you have a special education teacher that provides extra support. It might mean that your teachers give you something different. It might mean that you get extra time, but it's really designed to give you individualized education, right? So when we think about a disability, in some cases people use that phrase and they feel, well, why am I being labeled with a disability? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
It's not something that's wrong, it's different. And so on our show, we really try to focus on the idea that learning and thinking differences are at the crux of the situation. And I'm sure we'll get into more about, especially in our community, when you hear special education or you hear learning and thinking differences, people tend to feel a certain type of way.
Yeah.
Well, I think that was something that I found interesting is that, you know, the word disability, I think, might have someone feel a little bit more. But when you say learning differences, I think we can agree we all have learning differences right here, right now, without diagnosis, right?
Right.
But the term disability, I think, is what kind of maybe gives people this like
Pause.
This pause.
Yeah.
Is there any sort of conversation that's happening around changing the language that is used on a what is it? It's like a governmental level or an educational like systematic level, right?
Yeah.
Is this language that teachers and principals are now using to help encourage children to own these differences?
Yeah, so yes and no. Yes and no. So we know that, as I said, there's a federal law, IDEA, and that comes from the terminology disabilities is embedded in that law. But that law comes way back in the 70s. And that law hasn't been recertified for a really long time. And so if that law changes or the terminology changes, then maybe that word will change. In modern circles, most people do use learning and thinking differences, but we also know that education is different state by state, right? So depending on what state you're in, depending on who's in charge, the terminology can be different.
Right.
But if I were to sit here and tell you that people don't feel some type of way if they use the word disability to describe their child, I'd be lying to you.
Right.
Right.
Of course.
And so a lot of times as an administrator, I have to sit and talk with people about, hey, there's something going on with your child. And I have to say it in a way where I'm honoring the child's differences.
Listen.
I'm honoring their abilities, but I'm also respecting the fact that this is somebody's baby.
Yeah, even on a smaller scale, it's interesting that you said that. Like my daughter, she has a speech impediment, and she struggles saying like world girl, so that oral sound. And so I noticed it when she was little, and it was cute. And then she's 8, and it's not that cute anymore. And so I always correct her every time she says it. And so I would tell my husband, I was like, she needs a speech therapist. And he did not want to get her one because he was like, well, I don't want her to be labeled. And I was like, I don't want her to be
Struggling,
10 saying girl, because that's wild. Like, especially if like it can be fixed, like there, you know what I mean? And so because she can whisper it. So then I was like, okay, so I'm doing my own research, took her to the orthodontist, and she was like, she needs a palate expander in the way there's not enough room for her tongue, so she's not able to say some of these words correctly. So I was like, great. But I also scheduled her an appointment. And so it was funny because we're sitting there and it was a Zoom, and it's a guy and 2 women, and so she just started crying, and he was like, listen, there's nothing wrong with you. He was like, I went to a speech therapist. I was like, I used to stutter as a child. I went to speech therapy too. Now I don't stop talking. So I was like, it's fine, but I agree with you that sometimes it's about the parent, them not wanting their child to be labeled, specifically like with young Black boys. And then you don't want that to follow them. Because I know my daughter's in high school, and she said that they don't separate children with learning differences anymore. They're in the classroom. They're all in the class together. So they'll have like an assistant or an aide or whatever with them, helping them. Sometimes they'll pull them out of the class, but there's children like with high functioning autism, some who are, I don't like to say low functioning, but you know what I mean? Like, and they're like, you might yell out and stuff in the middle of the class. And she's like, sometimes it's distracting. And I was like, yeah, but I mean, we have to learn to function with one another, because I think us consistently being separated, I remember in high school, they were down the hallway. They put everybody in a room and then they got laughed at. And there could have been children in there who were higher functioning or whatever, but now because they're separated and they call them special, and they, you're in the short, but like all of these things, it puts that stigma. So now our generation growing up having children, it's harder for us to admit.
It's really us.
Yeah, it is us. Yeah.
It's not the children, it's the grown-ups.
Yeah. Well, we didn't grow up this way where it was more inclusive, and you know what I mean?
Well, that was something I wanted to, bring up with you all. I'm sure, all of us came up in a situation where special education wasn't really talked about, right? We didn't know much about it. We didn't realize that there's all these services out there. And especially Black folks, and Black and brown folks, we have trauma around education. We have trauma around our educational experiences. Our parents have trauma around that. Our grandparents have trauma around that. Generational poverty has been a thing for us for years and years and years. And so we have to retrain our relationship with the public education system. Right? We have to understand that a lot of these services have always been around and available, just not for us. And so how do we do that? We start to destigmatize that by making sure that there's trusted adults that can say to the parent and to the child, hey, guess what? I went through that too. And look at me now. Right? Like, I did that too. Look at me now. Everybody out there, over there, they've been doing that. Right? If you go to the suburbs, they've been doing that. They've been having those situations happen. They've been having that support. It's not talked about as much. But now that we have access, now that we have opportunity, we have to take advantage of that. Because at the end of the day, all 3 of you are mamas that are going to do whatever you can to make sure your child has the best possible shot at being successful. Right?
Absolutely.
And so if there's something that you can get out there, then why not take the opportunity to do it?
Is that how you define the opportunity gap in terms of like what we as Black and brown families have had access to versus like the majority in this country in terms of education and access?
Yes. There's something called disproportionality, where there's a disproportionate number of our students who are not getting the chances to be involved in programming or to get identified as having special education services. And so when we look at those numbers across the country, there's a pretty big gap in those that need it versus those who actually get the
Yeah.
services they need. And only in the last 10 or 15 years has that number increased, where our students are finally getting the services that they should get. On the understood.org has a whole host of resources that you can find giving you like strategic numbers on this. But on our podcast, we did an episode about the school to prison pipeline, where we talked about how I had a man that is an attorney for Marin County, California, and he talked about how so many of the people he represents are black boys who did not get the special education services they needed, and they wound up in jail. So if we look at the combination of people who are sitting in jail, and imagine, what if they had gotten what they needed when they were
Right.
younger? What if they had gotten the services they needed to learn how to read? What if they had gotten the opportunity or the chance just to love learning? And because that doesn't happen, all the societal pressures that are put upon them, coupled with I'm not getting what I need in school, and I'm made to feel like there's something wrong with me,
That part.
then what's going to happen?
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so when we look at this opportunity gap, it's a giant gap, and it's not talked about enough. That's why I love that y'all decided to let me
Yeah.
come on here, because we need to get this out. Everybody needs to talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It's not something that it just automatically goes away. When I leave here, I'm going back to work, and I'm going back to Philly, and I'm going to be working in the same population and the same schools that we're trying to support our kids. And we have to understand that our families are struggling to get what they need. So all of us have to talk about
Yeah.
how do we access and provide that information for each other.
And I can't stress enough. You said, thank you for letting you come on, but I was like, I love this podcast. I love the diversity of the episodes, and even you talking about the what was it, school to prison pipeline?
Yeah, school to prison pipeline. yeah.
I haven't heard that one yet, and I've heard many of them, and I just appreciate having the tools to work with my kids and hear from them, like talking to them and learning from them more easily. How do I work with their teachers? And I also appreciate that all the episodes are very brief. They're like 10, 20 minutes.
Yes.
But one question, especially because you said you are in high school. I
Yes.
didn't realize that you are a principal at a high school.
Yes.
So presumably you're often seeing sometimes the failures of the elementary and middle school education. So how are you able to course correct or impact kids that are older before it's too late?
So, there's a couple of things that we look at. I am fortunate enough where I get to oversee ninth grade. So I'm their first introduction into high school. And normally I don't dress like this normally. I tried to fancy myself a little bit to come on the show.
Aw.
But normally
you.
I dress like the kids. I appear to be like somebody that they can relate to from the beginning.
Yeah.
The way I speak with them is, I speak their language.
Yeah.
And it's building trust so that once the trust is built, the families can start opening up and telling us, tell me what your experience was before this. So many of our kids come to school and they haven't had a good experience with school. And if that's been for 7, 8, 9, 10 years, I only have 4 years with you. So what can I do in those 4 years to get you prepared to go on to the next level? I'm not going to say that we solve it every single time. Like, we try.
Yeah.
And a lot of the work we do is a team effort where we try to work with the family, we try to get the student involved, and we try to diagnose exactly what we can do to support that student to get them caught up. Our kids are brilliant, right? You think about so many of our kids are taking 2, 3, 4 buses just to get to school. They take care of a little sister. They get grandma's pills. They do whatever they need to do, and then they show up to school and they're treated like they can't do anything. But wait, you telling me, were you doing that in high school? Were you taking 3 or 4 buses to get to school and then handling yourself when you did that? No. So if they can do that, then of course, if I put a book in front of them, they should be able to do that too. And it's all about activating the skills they already have and making sure that those skills are activated in a school setting.
Yeah.
And so our job is to really create programming that empowers them to show what they can already do, to value who they are. They have to see themselves, and they have to see right in front of them. I can't tell them, oh, in 15 years, you're going to be successful when you're 30 years old. No, I need to know that I'm going to be successful tomorrow.
Yeah.
So when I leave here, I'm going back because I got to be there.
Yeah.
And I have to be a face that they see, and they see continuously and consistently. And so the combination of consistent effort, the combination of allowing them to speak up for themselves,
Yeah.
the combination of getting their parents involved, and the combination of diagnosing with expert advice and research-based intervention, these are things we know work, and we do that and we give that because it's the same thing that they do in the suburbs. Our kids in the city should get the same exact thing. That's how we can start to bring that catch up and kids can start getting what they need.
I have a question
Sure.
at a very base level.
Sure.
How does a parent identify if their child are showing signs? Like, what are the signs of identifying that your child might have a learning disability or difference? Because I think sometimes, we hear these conversations where, oh, he just doesn't have focus. They just don't have focus. Oh, they have to talk to them so many times. And, how come you can focus for that, but not for this? And like, where does a parent begin to start to question, is this just a 8-year-old or a 10-year-old being all over the place because they're 10? Or what is it that a parent needs to be looking out for to say, hey, we might need to research if this is worth diagnosing and seeking out intervention for this?
Right. Great question. And that's a question we get all the time. And that's something we bring up on the podcast. But I would say that, one, trust yourself. You are your own child's number one advocate. And you are the person that's the expert in your children. You know them. You know them well. And so I would pay attention to, how are they feeling about school? Starts there. Don't look at the product. Look at how they feel, right? When they come home from school, what's their demeanor? Do they feel confident in school? Are they frustrated? Do they come home and they say, I don't want to do anything. I'm tired. I'm worn out. I don't want to talk about it at all. And if that's continuing over time, that's already a red flag. Uh-oh, I need to see what's going on. Because ideally, we want our babies to love school.
Yeah.
They want to come home excited about it. They might not tell you everything,
Right.
but at least their feelings should be, they're not worn out from the experience. And once you start seeing that, that might be a warning sign that you want to look into. Secondly, have a conversation with them about how they feel about their production at school. Ask them targeted questions. Tell me what you learned. Tell me something that challenged you. Tell me something that you felt successful at today. A lot of us will say, did you have a good day at school today?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or they'll say, how was your day? And of course, you don't want to disappoint mom, so you're going to make something up. They
Or
might
say,
say,
fine.
or say fine,
Yeah.
or say leave me alone, or say I'm hungry,
Yeah.
give me a
Right.
snack. But if you ask targeted questions,
That's good.
then those targeted questions are going to give you the information you need. Tell me one person that you talked to at recess today. Tell me about what your teacher said to you today. Is there something good that they said? And once you start asking these questions, then that's where the information starts coming. Outside of that, obviously we have grades as a way to assess, but grades are not the only thing that you can look at. It's really about looking at what skills they're developing. And there are benchmarking of different skills at different levels. I would say the earlier that you're paying attention, the better. And I always tell parents, keep a record of your observations. Start writing down over time. I'm noticing that my child is struggling with every Thursday they come home upset. Well, what's going on every Thursday?
Right.
Is that when they have a math test every Thursday? Or every Monday the spelling test comes home and they're really mad at me. They don't want to be around me no more. They don't want to do anything. Well, I wonder what's going on with spelling. What's happening with that? And then thirdly, I would say have a relationship with the school. Have a relationship with those teachers.
Yep.
And not in a, I'm going in there raising high hell because they're not taking care of business. Start early and say, hey, I'm a parent and I'm going to be present.
Yeah.
I'm here and I'm going to be there and have that conversation start.
When my son was in first grade, I noticed a shift for him he's now in third.
Yeah.
I noticed a shift with him in school, and I went and volunteered at the school. I would volunteer once a week, and I'd go in that classroom because I was like, I want to see what's going on.
Yep.
And I was able to see what was going on, and it was very helpful. And so there was nothing we could do about the environment he was in that class for the year. It wasn't anything that needed to be changed, but it gave me insight as to how to parent him through his education experience and how to deal with certain things, and also like create different opportunities for different resources for him to navigate that particular year. First grade was tough for him. So I actually also want to say this because I think if I think about my parents, they worked every single day, and my grandmother lived with us and she raised us for the most time until my parents came home. And I think about, the weight that parents have to carry in this, now more than ever, these conversations are being had like, okay, we need to keep a log. We need to pay attention. Like some parents might feel overwhelmed by that. And then are there resources for the parents, like communities and podcasts, for example, that help parents navigate that, because it can feel overwhelming. It's like some parents didn't even identify these things within themselves that they may have struggled with, and now they have to try to learn it for their children. And it's amazing that parents can do that, but I know it can feel overwhelming. It's like, oh, I got to take a log of what's happening. I have to pay these bills too.
I definitely got overwhelmed, but also decided that that's something that I need to do.
Right.
I'm not even home, by the way. Our nanny picks the kids up from school, does the homework thing and bedtime. So I'm typically home after bedtime. But that's just like a reminder of like even how to have those, my mom that comes into town, how to have those that are there be a part of it.
Be a part of it. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad you asked that question again, because one, we've all come up in situations where we're okay. And our parents did the best that they could. No, don't. We are okay. We're doing all right.
We
doing all right.
We're hanging on by a thread, Julian.
All right. But I think in modern parenting, that's something we don't talk about either. Modern parenting, it's a pressure cooker.
Yes.
And all these things are telling us that we have to do this and this and this. And especially, I commend all of you as mothers, because the pressure on you is even heavier than it is on me as a father. Right?
You said that, bro.
That's a reality.
We're gonna run that clip back every week. That's gonna happen. It's gonna be how we close out the Mama's Den every week from now on. Thanks, fellas.
I'm saying it, but it's mad at you.
It's real talk. Like it's reality.
No, it
I
is.
see the pressure for mothers to be a perfect mother and to have everything together and to function in a way where everything on social media looks perfect. Your kids are all put together. Everything is perfect. That's a lot, right? And so we have to remind ourselves that somebody did it before us, and they did with less, and they did just okay.
And they did the best they could.
And so when we think about the resources, you have the resources right here. You have each other. I find that our biggest resources are each other.
100%.
And so when we encourage our families, talk to each other. Anytime I have a meeting with anytime I have any meetings with parents, or I do a lot of mediations. Like they throw their hands in Philly.
Be necking and bucking.
They they get it in. They say you need that. If you need that, then that means it goes. Oh, that's a new phrase.
That's
by the
a new
way.
phrase.
Somebody says you need that, walk the other way.
Oh,
walk the other way. They say that to you, walk the other way.
Okay.
But I do mediations, and a lot of times we'll bring the parents in, and at the end of the mediation, we say, exchange phone numbers, talk to each other.
Yeah.
Because listen, we're all trying to raise kids together.
Yeah.
We're trying to do this together, and we're so isolated in our phones, not talking to each other. We have to just sit, go have coffee together, come over the house, and just share what's going on with your kid.
That's a word.
Your kid's doing
I love
something.
that.
My kid's, all right, tell me what's going on. Oh, Julian, you're a principal at a school? Tell me, what is this? Explain it to me. Oh, you're a lawyer? Look at this for me.
Right.
Right? Like, you know music? Tell me, put me on to what's going on in music right now.
Right.
Let me know what music is going to help my kids calm themselves down. We have to share this stuff with each. That's your number one resource.
Yeah.
But then outside of that, every single state, every school district has a number of organizations. You can just Google child advocacy, and you'll find an organization that can help you. But again, I would always say, go back to the school, find one person at your school that you trust. Find just one. Somebody in that building is somebody that you can really tell you what's actually happening. If it happens to be an administrator, then that's even better, because we know everything.
Yeah.
And we can unlock a lot of the things that parents might typically not know. But you find somebody that can help you, put you in the right direction, and we can diagnose what's happening. Like, I can walk into a classroom and I can tell you exactly what's happening. I can tell you what kids are learning on which reading level. I can tell you what teacher moves are happening. I can tell you, what the teacher did and did not do. And you might not be able to do that. But if you come to me and say, hey, Mr. Saavedra, I'm having a little bit of trouble with this. I'm noticing that, my son is really struggling. Can you give me some advice on what to do? I can help walk you through that. But if you don't have a trusting relationship with anybody there, then that's hard. And listen, my mother worked many, many, many hours. Thank you, Mama, for thank you. But she worked many hours, and she didn't have the chance to be at the school all the time.
Yeah.
But every time I saw her, we had to explain what was going on at school. And we had an expectation that we were going to do the best we could at school. And the school knew who she was. Even though she wasn't there, they knew who she was. And they knew that we had a mama that didn't play.
Yeah.
That's
And
right.
just by the way that we were.
She sent her representatives.
Exactly. But listen, that you tell your children. You
Yeah.
go out in the house, you're representing you, but you're also representing us.
Yeah.
That part.
But speaking of parents,
Sure.
where is somewhere parents should go to help like champion with learning disabilities and to want to learn more about this? Like, where should they go? Should they go to your website? Is there?
I mean, we gonna go to the podcast.
Yes.
Right.
Well,
But the
Opportunity
website
gap.
you just mentioned, can you
yeah,
mention
so
that again?
understood.org.
Okay.
Understood.org. It's an organization I work with, and it's a really user-friendly website. There's tons of resources. It walks you through if you are concerned about special education and you think maybe my child might need services. It gives you the templates to write a letter. It walks you through step by step.
that.
What does it look like? Because again, so many of our families, they just don't know.
Yeah.
And you might find yourself sitting in a meeting and you don't know what they're talking about. Go to understood.org and they'll break down everything for you. And the podcast, you can listen to that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff
It's
that
wonderful.
and we talk a lot about, again, our families, like what is specific to us, because it looks different.
Yeah.
It looks different for us and it looks different for our journey. And my goal really is to help people trust public education is there for you. Special education has drastically improved.
Yeah.
It's changed since we were in school. And there's a lot of great resources out there for you.
And something that you said in an episode, I just want to emphasize to parents that like there are modifications that can be made to your child's learning experience.
Yes.
Whether that's sitting in the front of the room because they get more distracted in the back of the room was something that was said in an episode that I listened to. And it's just simple things like that that could make the difference between your kid like having a great experience or just like not being able to hear and zoning out.
That's
And so I'm glad that you shared understood.org is where we can go if we just want to kind of understand better what the options are. And definitely check out the Opportunity Gap podcast with Julian as the host.
OG fam.
OG fam.
That's how he
See, you
greets
got-
us.
Yes.
Thank you, Julian, for joining us today.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much. This is a fantastic platform, and y'all keep doing what you're doing.
No,
because
and
it's
thank
important.
you for the work that you're doing.
Period.
Yes,
You keep
absolutely.
doing what you're doing because it takes a village, and it's wonderful to see an administrator, somebody in the schools
Yes.
with these kids. We're sitting here talking to you, it's homies, it's all cool, but you're with these kids, you want to make a difference, you're making an impact on a direct level with these kids.
Yes, and as someone who grew up in the inner city, aka the hood, and went to inner city high school, teachers, administrative staff like you, they really do matter,
Make the
and
difference.
they really do make
Period.
a difference.
Yep.
Like I literally would not be. I mean, a shout out to my mom because she homeschooled me until I went to high school. But I'm telling you, like, I call it planting the seed. Everything you say to these kids, you might not even see the difference immediately, but trust me, like that, it grows and it grows and it gets unlocked again at some time as an adult, and they were going to remember something you said to them and they're like, and it all starts to make sense. So I hope you realize how important everything you say, them seeing you, simply seeing you, how much of a difference that truly makes in their life.
Well, to all my students out there, I love working with you. You are my investment plan. I tell all of you that you need to make it and then come back and find your old teacher and hook me up. Because when you make it and you make it big and you have your own podcast and show, you come and hook me up. But that's why we do it, right? It's investment in the next generation.
Absolutely.
And it's an honor to do the work that we do. But I also say that we need help.
Yeah.
And so I ask all of you with the resources you have, something we didn't bring up as much, but in our community, there's a differentiation between those that have and those that might not have.
Right.
And so many of our families, they don't have the time to sit and do it. And they get demonized because they're not showing up.
Right.
Oh, this parent just doesn't care. Well, no, they got 2 jobs.
Yeah.
They're trying to put food on the table. And so those that do have, we need to have a responsibility to support those that don't. How are we sharing our resources? How are we activating what we have at our disposal? How can we mentor those that
Yeah.
are coming up behind us, right? And I charge that to anybody who watches this podcast, anybody that's watching this show. If you don't have a young person in your life that you're mentoring or supporting, get one. Find one. It doesn't take much. It takes a couple of minutes to just share what you do and share what your journey is. And like you said, that can be the seed that changes somebody else.
Absolutely.
And puts them on. And a lot of times, all we need is a chance.
Yep.
Opportunity gap. We let's close it.
I know
Love
that's
that.
right.
Love that.
Okay.
What a great way to end it.
Okay.
Wait, the other way they ended is you said something about moms doing the hard work. It's really beautiful.
It's really
all that
beautiful.
Moms
Moms carry a lot.
Yeah.
Moms are super.
Moms
Moms
have
are
all the
queens.
pressure. Moms are superheroes.
Moms
Yes.
send your moms on vacations.
Yes, do
Send
everything
them
you
nice
can.
things.
Husbands,
Feed them.
do what you need to do for your
Right.
wives. Moms, yes,
Absolutely.
moms are superheroes.
All right. well,
Especially black moms.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much, Julian.
Thank
We're
you.
so happy to have you here on the Mama's Den podcast. All right. So, our family, if you have questions, comments, concerns, never mind. Don't send us concerns. Email us at podcasts.
We have enough of our own
With an S.
problems.
with an S at blacklove.com. Leave us ratings and reviews on Apple and Spotify.
It's a thing.
Yes,
It's a thing.
Spotify. Heard of it. And on Instagram, the Mama's Den podcast. And then also remember, y'all, we're not playing about the opportunity gap
At all.
Okay, it is a podcast hosted by this man, Julian Saavedra, husband to Elizabeth. Dad to 2. Okay, so this is a wonderful man and an assistant principal in a Philadelphia high school. Is it Saavedra?
Saavedra.
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 Get it right, girl.
We should write
Saavedra.
a song and a closing song about Saavedra.
We'll
I don't know
come
what
back
rhymes
to
with
it.
it, but
We'll
we'll
come
figure it
back
out. Yes, listen to it.
All right,
Thank
thanks, y'all.
Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here.
Julian. Thank you so much.
Thank you.